Good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another, what is sure to be amazing episode of TADTalk. We're in season 3, episode 7. And today we have an incredible guest on with us. Not Gaston, that's from Beauty and the Beast. We have a guest on here with us today who, honestly, this is one that I've never been more excited for a TADTalk guest than the one we have today. And her name is Karen Dotrice. And if you don't know her by the name, then you'll definitely know her by one of the most famous roles that has ever been played. Let's show that clip, Ross.
Go very well.
Wanted a nanny for 2 adorable children.
Karen Dotrice, who played Jane Banks in Mary Poppins. How are you doing, Karen?
I'm super, darling. How are you? Well, supercalifragilistic, actually.
I'm even better now that you said that. This is going to be absolutely incredible. We already have so many comments on the feed, and I know today we're just going to learn so much more, not only about Mary Poppins, but about you and your career during Mary Poppins and after Mary Poppins and just everything in between. And where are you right now? It looks beautiful behind you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just arrived here yesterday. We have a summer house in Maine, which is on the northeast coast of the great country America. And we live in Los Angeles, and then we always summer here. And so we did a very precarious, COVID hiding from it plane trip here with 2 dogs and a cat. And I was wearing a hazmat suit and things and stuff. And yeah. It was quite dramatic, but we're here and we're not coughing, so thank you, God.
Well, that's great. You never know nowadays. It's scary, but you have quite a posh accent for being in Maine, I would have to say.
They'll never send you a lobster.
Well, obviously, everyone knows this beautiful face that we have on with us today, and we're going to talk about all things Disney, all things Othello, which is another part of your career, and everything past that as well. But we're going to start, like we do on every TAD Talk, with 4 quick-fire questions today. So, Karen, first question. If you could share the stage or the camera with any one actor, who would it be and why?
Well, besides you, I would like to. The love of my life is not my husband, my children, or my pets. It's Tom Hanks. And I know he's a god. He's a god. I've met him a few times, and I shared a screen with him in as much as I was in Saving Mr. Banks, but only as clips. So I haven't actually been in front of a camera with him in that regard. And he's actually a neighbor of mine in Brentwood in California. So I see him all the time. He's out with his sons and the hardware store buying hammers and stuff. And boy, I'd like to do a lot more with him.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, Tom Hanks is probably my favorite actor of all time. So yeah, if you ever want a dinner date, let me know and I'm there. All right. Second question. What is the nicest thing anyone has ever done for you?
Well, actually, I'm going to have to sound a little spiritual, but I would say that whoever the creator is that gave me 3 kids, that was an amazing thing to do. That's the best part of my life and the most important thing I've ever done. And they're super amazing people. So Garrick, Isabella, and Griffin, they're just awesome people.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. All right. What is your most prized possession other than your children?
Most prized possession. Well, I'm not really a possessions kind of person. I'm married. My husband is a pack rat. He keeps everything. It's like the wrappers off a chocolate bar. It drives me bat because I'm the opposite. I can drop and run anything. I don't care. I don't care about stuff. I don't collect anything. I'm not interested in things because I love to travel. So, last year anyway, can't do much this year, but last year I was in Africa working with nomads on a medical mission and wow. Went to Panama helping with coffee farms there. And so that's my passion. So I guess my most prized possession is my passport.
That's a good answer, actually. That's a great answer. I want to get more stamps once this whole COVID thing is done. I want to go as many places as possible before it, knock on wood, closes down again. So
yeah, you never know, right?
Absolutely. All right. Last and final question. So you cringed when I asked you this before the show started, but here we go.
Okay.
The earth is flooding, and you are tasked to go the way of Noah and build an ark where you will house 2 of every animal. The problem is you build the ark a bit too small, and you have to sacrifice a species. Which animal are you leaving behind?
The human race, gone, donezo. Goodbye. We're screwing everything up so bigly. Just keep the animals on board. Absolutely. That's my present work. I'm launching a TV channel called Born Free TV, and that's what I do all over the world. I'm in animal rescue. So yeah, I would absolutely not pick humans over animals. They were here before us, and they're going to be here after us, I'm sure, if we don't eat them. Yeah, I'm not throwing anything overboard. It's a small ark. I'll swim alongside because I'm not very good at driving a boat. You can tell if I go past here.
I love that answer. I think I would have to agree with you there. Definitely. But I'm sure you could fit on there, just squish up next to the giraffes. I think that should be fine.
I did that last year in Kenya. It's there's not much squishing. They'll kick the bejeebers out of you.
Awesome. Well, those were great answers. And right now we're going to go straight into your career because it is just illustrious, to say the least. It started obviously with playing Jane Banks in Mary Poppins. Tell us, how did you come across getting that part? Did you just audition for it, or how did that happen?
No, I didn't audition for it, actually. I come from an acting family in England. My sister, Michelle Dotrice, is very well known, and my dad, who's passed, was a very well-known actor in theatre and Broadway and the West End and stuff. So we grew up in that kind of environment. I think I was like 4 or 5, and my dad volunteered me to play the part of a little boy in a play he was doing. From that play, The Caucasian Chalk Circle, there was a scout in the audience, Maud Spector, and she was tied in with Disney. And they picked me to do my first film for Disney called The 3 Lives of Thomasina, which was Patrick McGoohan, Susan Hampshire, and myself. And then when Walt saw his product, The 3 Lives of Thomasina, he saw me, and actually the boy who played Michael Banks had a little bit smaller role in Thomasina, and he obviously saw there was some kind of chemistry and picked us both for Mary Poppins. But no, there's no audition tape on that. We just got it.
That's awesome. That must have been amazing.
I'd have probably failed an audition, so I'm glad.
No,
it was terrible.
You were the perfect choice for that. Everyone in that movie, I think, was just perfect for the roles. And
should we say practically perfect?
Practically perfect in every way. Absolutely. Well, and side note, when did you move to America?
Oh, well, I worked here as a kid, obviously, at the Burbank Studios. And after Mary Poppins, I made another film for Disney called, what the hell is it called? Oh, the No-Mobile. Nobody's going to remember that one. I mean, if anybody's watching and they remember the No-Mobile, please write a comment so I don't feel so lonely. It was a film starring Walter Brennan and Jane and Michael again, but playing different parts. So we were put together as brother and sister again. Those were the 3 Disney films I made.
Oh, that's awesome. That's brilliant. Yeah, I was born in Liverpool.
Were you?
Yeah.
Mom, you're a Scouse.
I am a Scouser. Yes, once a Scouser, always a Scouser.
Got to believe it.
So that's cool. I love obviously.
You just won the cup too, didn't you? You just won the league thing the other day.
Yes, and I know the main reason you said that is because my dad is watching, and he's a giant Man U fan, and you just want to piss him off.
Yes. You'll never walk alone, darling. I'm with you.
Oh, that's great. So, but you're a Chelsea supporter, aren't you?
Yes, blue is the color. Football is the game.
Well, you see, that's how it should be, Dad. Okay, you should support one team, but then also show your support for another when they win. That's how the world should work. That's how we get better as a people.
Your dad's not very nice, darling.
Luckily, the apple fell a little further that time.
Roll away.
So tell us, after the 3 Disney films that you made, where did your career take you after that?
Yeah, well, so that was, to answer your question, that was why I was in America. And then I came back to England. Fortunately, even though I come from a theatrical background, my mum and dad were very grounding, so I came back and went back to my little school in the Cotswolds of England. And then I was, once you've just sort of made films like that, people want you, which is nice. But, my thing was I didn't really want to be an actress. I wanted to be an international show jumper. I was very good with the horses. I'm now just very good at backing the horses. But back then I was very good at riding the bloody thing. So I used to do 3-day events, dressage and show jumping cross country and stuff. So I would go back to the Cotswolds and ride my horses and event them and stuff. And then I'd go down to London. I did lots of different films and television shows and stuff. But fortunately, my parents just had me go home and go to a regular old school. And the 3 girls that were my besties in primary school are still my 3 best friends today.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That I read that you still do some voiceover work for various Disney projects. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. It's very nice that it's lovely to keep your toes in. I wouldn't want to be a full-time actor anymore. I mean, I quit acting when I was like 24, 25. But it's always nice to be asked to do the odd bits and bobs, because I think show business is the most exciting business, whether you're in front of the camera or behind it. And as I said earlier, in response to your how do we squeeze all the animals on Noah's Ark? I am still involved in show business. As I say, I'm launching a channel. So, but behind the camera, you get to a certain age, which in Hollywood is probably about 22. Unless you go, a really good plastic surgeon, you better get the other side of the camera.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you've aged really well. I think everyone on here would agree with us there.
Bless your heart. Well, the great thing is, because I'm not an actress, I don't care.
Well, that's great. Well, and did you say that you played a little cameo role in Saving Mr. Banks?
They just used clips from Mary Poppins.
Of course, that's right.
I played a cameo role in Mary Poppins Returns, which was fantastic fun to. That's me in my dress from the premiere. Yeah, that was super fun to be asked to do that, because the heads of the studio, Sean Murphy and various chaps over at Disney, said, we're going to do not a remake, but kind of not even a sequel. It's still a standalone film, Mary Poppins Returns, and would you be interested in being in it? And we think Dick's going to be in it. And I said, oh, lovely, as long as you make like a really small part, because I don't want to have to study. Don't like wearing mascara and stuff. So if you make it a small role, I'd love to come and see the gang again. And so that was super cool. Rob Marshall directed, and he's a phenomenal director. And we shot in London. They recreated Cherry Tree Lane better than it had ever been before. And it was just super fun hanging out with, the new cast, with Emily Mortimer, who's me now as a grown-up, and Emily Blunt, and, everybody in it was, and Ben Whishaw, who was just divine, and my sister Michelle had just done a film with him. So it was really kind of like old home week, just hanging out. It was freezing cold. We were filming in like February for Mary Poppins Returns. And so they had in this huge sound studio where they'd recreated Cherry Tree Lane. And they had like a little pop tent off to the side with little space heaters to keep us warm, this multi-million-dollar thing. And it comes down to, somebody got a quarter, stick it in the heater because we're freezing. I'm sitting there sort of rubbing Emily Blunt's knees and Angela Lansbury's thighs. Well, that sounds weird. But anyway, we were just trying to keep each other warm. Honest, Governor.
Oh, wow. What is your, do you give Emily Blunt your blessing? What did you think of her as Mary Poppins?
Oh, she's just a divine. I've never known anybody work so hard as she did for that role. And with the pressure of, all your fans now who are listening, and all the Mary Poppins fans, what a tough act to follow. I wouldn't have done that for Chelsea winning the League Cup. I mean, it's just who's going to do it? It's too staggering a job. And, she just had a baby. And she got down her figure immaculately, and, all the dances and the songs and everything. She's a killer gal, and one of the sweetest people. And her husband, John, they're just like young, enthusiastic people. They know everything there is to know about Mary Poppins. And so they're devotees and really hard workers.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so good to hear as well. It's so nice when you hear that someone you're only used to seeing up on the big screen is down to earth. Because not everyone, we've encountered some people who we've unfortunately we'd rather just keep them on the screen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of those, but there's plenty of those in any job. That's not show business. Doesn't matter. I've got a really stroppy plumber, so
Exactly. Well, I have to ask the question that I think everyone is wondering on here. What was it like working as closely with Walt Disney as you did?
Oh, Uncle Walt. He's just, I use present tense. He's in my heart for life and will always be alive to me because he was a parent figure. He was my kind of surrogate uncle over that time, and he was so kind and generous. I went to Disney Archives because they've now memorialized his office, and they asked me to come along and ask them they asked me if it looked familiar, if everything was the way I recall it. Well, I was just a wee thing, but I remember, Uncle Walt was just so lovely to me. In his diary in the archives that they keep in his, structured office is his diaries. And in the diaries, it's got, lunch with Karen Dotrice, just the two of us. And I was 8, 9, 12, whatever between the two films. But we got on famously. And he, Walt Disney, would just asked me to go and have lunch with him so we could, just chew the fat. He was just an extraordinary bloke. He taught me so much about psychology and what to kind of beware of as a kid, without me knowing it, but in retrospect. One time we were, I was going into his office. Now, in retrospect, he was obviously sick. He died of lung cancer. And I remember he was coughing, but he always tried not to do that in front of anybody. I remember going into his office, and his desk was way the other side of his office. And he was coughing as I came in and then quickly masked it. And I said, Uncle Walt, I've got an idea. Why don't we move your desk closer to the door so that you wouldn't have so far to walk, and then you wouldn't cough? And quick as sixpence, he said, Karen, the reason my desk is so far away from the door is by the time these cigar-chewing executives get over to my desk, they've lost the courage to ask me what they came in for.
Oh, that's great.
That's to an 8-year-old, but I remembered it because you learn then about positioning in life, and you learn that sort of hierarchy or the psychology behind the way he ran the studio was fascinating to me.
Absolutely. You could tell by what he accomplished just in his lifetime. He was an absolute genius. And even when you just strip it down to just Mary Poppins, those animated scenes were just beyond the time that was released. It was absolutely just amazing. I would have loved to have been around during that time, so I could have experienced that firsthand when nothing like that was even around. And what was it like filming those animated sequences?
It was rubbish because sorry, I can make it up, or I can tell you.
No, tell us.
All right, well, here it comes. those same cigar-chewing, sweating executive types had then been told by Walt to run around with cut-out penguins or horses or whatever, so as an eye line for us, because of course there was nothing there except a blue screen. So you had these sort of going past, here comes another penguin, and as kids we're like, with our toffee apples, looking at them like they've all lost their minds. So, there was much magic on that film, but those animated sequences, Matthew Garber and I, my brother and I, just thought they were all nuts.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's great. Everyone's commenting right now. I love her honesty. It's great. What was it like going through that and thinking, oh, this is absolutely insane. This is crazy. And then going to the premiere, seeing the film, and then seeing how it turned out?
Well, my parents, as I said, were really good at making sure I went back home and just had a normal childhood. And so I didn't go to the LA premiere. They wouldn't let me because school was still in England, and that's fine. I didn't give a monkeys, it's like, my family were in premieres and first nights and stuff all the time. So it was like no biggie. And to be honest, nobody knew how big Mary Poppins was going to be. But I did go to the London premiere, and I remember it distinctly, because I didn't watch the film at all. I was sitting next to Princess Margaret, and she was a real princess. And she had a tiara on, and all the sparkly bits. And she was like Disney princess gone wild. I didn't watch a minute of the film. I was just looking at her the whole time like this, absolutely gobsmacked. And I presented her with a bouquet of flowers, and she was sitting there with a cigarette and one of those long things, whatever they are. And it was all so glamorous and extraordinary and bigger than life. I mean, she was way bigger than life. She was like the consummate diva, really. So I couldn't tell you what the film was about when the credits came. What she was wearing.
Oh, this is great. I'm loving this so much. So, in terms of Saving Mr. Banks, did you see Saving Mr. Banks?
I did, but I embarrassed myself.
You embarrassed yourself?
I did.
Did you not like watching that back? Watching
no,
the scenes?
It was embarrassing. I made a mistake. I mean, it's the most incredible film. But before the film started, they got all of us for a group shot outside the animation building. And they put me next to Colin Farrell. Hang on, I'm a little overcome. And I did a terrible thing. I couldn't stop touching him. I was like massaging his head and his neck and stuff. And my husband was watching the other side of the camera, and I completely lost the plot. And I was flirting outrageously. I just fell instantly in love and couldn't stop myself. So that's my main memory. I mean, it's a great premiere, and Tom Hanks, of course, I got to meet my ultimate heartthrob. But you don't want to put the average housewife next to Colin Farrell and expect her to behave. It's not going to happen.
I was so, when I saw that movie, I was so because Tom Hanks, obviously I told you, is my favorite actor. Emma Thompson is probably my favorite actress. And I was so excited to see them in that movie. And then Colin Farrell came on and completely stole the show for me. He was incredible in that movie. I know that you weren't there for a lot of the actual writing of it with P.L. Travers and all that whole thing. But in your experience with Mary Poppins, how accurate, to the best of your knowledge, was Saving Mr. Banks?
Well, to be honest, when I was at the premiere the first time I'd seen it, I didn't bother to pack a hanky because I didn't think it was going to be sad. I was weeping my eyeballs out and subsequently leaning on Colin for moral support. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, he actually got up in the premiere. He went to the men's room and got a whole bunch of loo paper to come and sort of swab up my snot because I was crying my eyeballs. I had no idea all the stuff that they had been through. And also for me personally, I never quite kenned as to why Uncle Walt was so nice to me. But when I saw Saving Mr. Banks in the middle of a premiere, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's because, as the story says in Saving Mr. Banks, Walt was, he worked as a child for his parents, delivering their newspaper, come rain, come shine, snows, etc. And he obviously came from a fairly rough background. And then you've got P.L. Travers with alcoholic father, etc., etc. So, and it suddenly hit me, oh my gosh, that's why Walt was so nice to me, because he obviously thought, if an 8-year-old is going to work, it's going to be magical, it's going to be the most fun she could possibly have. And so he treated me like his own daughter, and I never felt like I was working. It all felt like playtime. So that was the biggest thing watching the film. The studio kept us away from P.L. Travers. I never met her because she was, a renowned biatch. So we didn't have the pleasure. And I can see why. Thank God for that. So, yes, all my memories are happy because I didn't have to go through her sort of, oh, my God, what on earth do you think you're doing, child?
Oh, my gosh. As much as I love Emma Thompson, she played that part so well because I hated her so much.
That's good actress for you.
Yeah, right. Well, you say you have a lot of only happy memories filming Mary Poppins. Do you have one memory that really just stands out for you? You look back on it and just nothing but joy.
Well, I've got two memories. I've got one which was like, oh, crikey, what the hell is this about? It's my first day on set, and it was for costume fittings, and they take me to the costume department, and I had my mum there and also my chaperone, because my mum wasn't giving me up to the chaperone just yet. And they take me to the costume department, and they say, oh, nice to meet you, Karen. How do you do? Bend over. And I'm looking at my mum, and I'm looking at my chaperone going, do I? Are we sure about this? I just got off the BA flight from London, and they said, no, we think it's all right. So they took a plaster cast of my butt, which was a strange way to be introduced to, the Walt Disney Studios. Now, that plaster cast was then inserted be careful where you go, inserted inside of my costume for going up the banister or, the tea party flying on the ceiling kind of thing. So there was absolute reason for it. But at the time, that was a strange introduction. But being a kid, my favorite memories really were just of like Dick Van Dyke and Julie and I mucking about. Dick is a very, very naughty, silly boy. And he still is and always will be. And he's a good mate, that's the lovely thing. All of us are still good friends. I talked to Dick and his wife, Arlene, yesterday, we're that good a friend. But he was always doing stupid pranks, and he must have driven props and costume up the wall, because he was always, deliberately doing a comedy thing, spilling something over himself. He's Dick, he's a crazy guy. He's so much fun. He was just very silly. And, being kids, that's what you want to be around.
That's amazing. I can just imagine having the honor to walk through Disney archives and seeing just these, like the carpet bag from Mary Poppins, and you have some things from Pirates of the Caribbean, you have all of these huge things, and then you just have a mold of Karen Dotrice's butt just up there. Just glad
it was then, because it's a bit bigger now.
Oh my gosh. Well, in 2004, I read this as well. This is amazing. In 2004, you were officially named a Disney legend.
Wasn't that nice?
That is what was that process? Did someone just email you and say, hey, you're a Disney legend, that was it? Or was there a ceremony, or how did that happen?
There was a ceremony. That's a big deal over at the studio. And then you do the handprints and well, not the butt prints. We didn't go to, they'd already got my butt print. But, you go in and there's a big lunch, and then the former legends who've been named that in previous years, they all come to the lunch, and, head of the studio does a speech, and then you do a speech, and it's a big, big deal. And obviously an incredible honor. And but also because I was accepting on behalf of Matthew Garber, who isn't with us anymore. And so, it felt huger than huge, because I was accepting for Jane and Michael. And that was extraordinary. I mean, what an honor. That was insane. I don't remember being asked, but I remember being there on the day and just feeling like, wow, this is ginormous. My handprints, my husband is an executive in television, and he was under contract with Disney for a few years, and he found it very disconcerting. He'd be standing there making deals with people, and there's a set of my handprints on the wall with my name. So he felt he couldn't get away with anything ever. But, his wife was watching, no, you can't do that. You can't ask her for lunch. Very limited.
Oh, that's so great. That must have been an amazing experience, just being asked in general, but then being there on the day, actually doing it. That just to have your name just go down in history like that must be extraordinary. I mean, that's the thing about the Disney studio. They really are a family, and there's no other studio like them anywhere in the world. That's basically still family owned and run, and with that ethos that Uncle Walt would be just as proud today, the way the studio's going, as it was when he and Roy created it. This is, it hasn't changed. I mean, they haven't even updated the buildings. Everything looks like stepping back in time, or should I say step in time. Those brothers, they write these bloody earworms. I can't get them out. Oh my God. They were, I mean, one of them is still around. I know that, but Richard is still around. Yeah.
Yes, he's a good friend.
Oh man, they were. I mean, that movie would have been incredible anyway, but the music just made that movie what it is. They were geniuses at what they did, and I'm guessing because you sang a lot in the movie. You worked very closely with the Sherman Brothers. How was that experience?
Well, as I say, look, I think there's a ship going by. Sorry about the noise.
That's all good.
I know it's not a cruise ship. They're not happening, so I don't know what it is. Some rich bastard who's not giving me a lift, I'll tell you.
It's Tom. He's coming for you.
Tom, you're here, finally. What was the question? And we went off track then.
As soon as we talk about Tom Hanks, that's it. Everything else leaves.
Yeah, absolutely. Who cares after that?
Right.
I've forgotten.
The Sherman Brothers.
Thank you.
How was it?
Oh, they're just divine. Richard is lovely. Robert died quite a while ago, but we were friends as well. But Richard and his wife Elizabeth are like complete mates. That's the great thing with Mary Poppins. I've done a lot of work in the time span that I decided I wanted to work. But the closeness from the Mary Poppins gang, and I think that's what the fans pick up on. This wasn't just a film that was made. This is a family, and I hope when I go to conventions and stuff, I feel that the fan base feel that they're part of that family, because that's who Uncle Walt made this film for. Yeah. Well, he made it primarily for his daughter because she wanted the books to be made into a film, but after that, he made it for all of us. And I think that's what we get from it. The lesson learned about, the dad needs to lighten up, kind of like Terry. Sorry.
I heard that.
Well, I won't tell any secrets. But anyway, it's just a lesson behind it of how to treat family and what's important. And that, I think, has helped so many families throughout the years and made people reflect on their relationships with their kids. Because even to this day, a lot of kids are seen and not heard. And fathers are better today than they've ever been. But I don't think George Banks has hurt that at all. I think his arc of his character and the stuff that he learned, especially with the Sherman Brothers music, his an Englishman's home is his castle, all that song he sings, which is all very regimented and banker style. But then he melts into the Let's Go Fly a Kite, and nobody but the Sherman Brothers could have written that kind of music. But I have to tell you, Richard Sherman drives me up the bloody wall, because I'll go over to his house in Beverly Hills. I live in the cheap seats, but he's in Beverly Hills, of course. And he's, I'm coming for dinner, right? They know I'm coming. I'm standing there with, a bag of chips and a bottle of wine ready to be let in. But he makes you ring the bloody doorbell. And, and deliberately, and he's peeking behind the curtain going, because you have to listen to "It's a Small World After All." It's a small, goes on for choruses and choruses, and then the Mary Poppins ones and the Parent Trap one, all of this stuff. You have to listen to about 10 minutes, and you're out there, let me in, I'm done with this stuff, you're driving me mad.
It's so fun. I'm sure most of the people, if not all of the people watching right now, are listening to you saying, oh, you have to listen to Richard Sherman play It's a Small World and Mary Poppins songs. Oh, man. And everyone would give their right foot to just be outside.
Yeah, you tend to get a bit complacent as you get older. Well, the great thing is we're all getting older together. So, these are all right. I've known them since I was a little girl. And so, nothing they do or I do impresses each other anymore. Legend, schmegend, nobody cares,
Oh my God! Well, we have a comment on here from Coriana Lee, who has seen the other Disney movies that you were in. I know that you said that you wanted someone to comment. Yes, and they did. She would love to hear about the making of those as well, although they're not as iconic as Mary Poppins, which they should have been, I think. How were those experiences?
Well, thank you, Coriana Lee, for the question. And The 3 Lives of Thomasina was super fun because we actually filmed up in Scotland. So, it wasn't on a set much, unless we were doing, my bedroom scene, etc., where I'm missing my cat. But so, I'm with Patrick McGowan, there's another kind of Colin Farrell, right? Very well. But yes, he was so divine, such a lovely bloke. And so filming that was really lovely. And I think that's the only performance of mine that I really liked because it was so innocent. I didn't know anything about cameras or whatever. So for me, it felt really authentic. I was just a little girl who they put a camera on. So it's kind of like a home video in a sense that anybody watching would take of their own kid going through something. So that felt really lovely. And then the Nomobile, that was kind of tough because by the time we were filming the Nomobile, Uncle Walt was dying and died. So that film didn't have his, thumbprint on it, whereas the other two absolutely did. And you can tell the difference, to be honest. I mean, the Nomobile is a lovely little film, etc., but it's not an Uncle Walt film. He would literally watch everything. He was always on set, not the one in England, Thomasina, but he was on set for Mary Poppins. Often behind the camera and just watching what we were doing. So, you absolutely knew that it was a Walt Disney film, whereas by the time we got around to the Nomobile, we'd lost him. Mm-hmm. I think we were a little bit of a ship at sea at that point. We didn't know, who was going to say. Obviously, the director had a say, et cetera, but who was going to say, nah, use that cut, I like this, or change the dialogue in any way. So it didn't have the kind of oomph that you're used to with Walt.
Definitely. Yeah, everyone that does an interview or says anything about Walt Disney who was around for his life and then around for his death was so just heartbroken, and it was like the worst day of their life when that happened. So it just speaks to the amazing man that he must have been.
Well, I honestly don't believe it to this day, and I know that sounds stupid, but I remember that I'd just come home from my little school in the Cotswolds, and my mum sat me down and said, we had a phone call while you were at school, and she told me what had happened. It's that thing like when Kennedy was shot, or the first moon landing, or any of the, you're too young, but for the rest of us, any of those mega moments in life where time sort of freezes, and or the George Floyd thing, where all of those moments in life that are just so affect you so deeply and they hurt so badly. I just absolutely refuse to believe it. And to this day, I mean, I'm all about he's in cryonic, whatever somewhere, and he's going to reappear one day and save the world, because you just can't imagine that anybody with that kind of creativity and brilliance. And the other sad thing is, if this had happened to him today, he would have made it. it's just timing. So it's such a loss to the world. The theme parks haven't been opened for a long time, because of COVID, and that's such a loss. How many people's summer holidays are built on the brilliance of Walt Disney and family time and fantasy, and we all just miss that. Most of the rides at Disneyland are still the Peter Pan ride, the Teacups ride, all of the old school stuff. That was all Walt stuff. I rode on all of those with him back in the day.
My gosh. That's something to say.
Now it's squashed.
Oh my gosh. And you actually, you went to the place because I just got Disney Plus, and there's a show on there right now called Prop Culture, and the host of Prop Culture took you to the place where Walt Disney came up with the idea for Disneyland with that carousel, and that must have been incredible in itself. But then he sat you down and he presented you. I mean, you still have your hat, right, from filming, but he presented you with the rest of your costume that you wore in Mary Poppins. And I when you saw that, I filled up watching that. It must have been amazing.
It was absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a great show. I have no axe to grind with or ownership. I'm going to go, aren't I? That was pretty. I've got nothing to do with Prop Culture besides being on it, so I'm not recommending it for any fiscal reason. I'm just saying it's an incredible series of, as you said earlier, the whole thing of props, whether it's Pirates of the Caribbean, Mary Poppins, Tron, whatever. For all of us who watched those shows and loved them, and it's not that you consciously think, I wonder where such and such is. But when somebody puts together a show and shows you the journey they've been on to reunite the actors with their costumes, or even to purchase the props to keep in archives and to have them able to tour the country as they do, like Mary Poppins' bag tours the country under extremely watchful eyes. I mean, you'd think it was the crown jewels. But so Prop Culture is a great show. I love that, and I think anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen it yet, if you don't have Disney Plus, go to a friend's house who does and watch Pop Culture, because it's fascinating to see things that we've all cared about being preserved, and that where are they now? Not people are boring, but items are always a kick.
Absolutely. It must have been one of those things that as a child, they presented you with the costume you were going to be wearing, and you say, great. And then you put it on, you do your scenes, and then you take it off, and then there you go. It goes on a hanger, and that's it. But after the success it had, and not seeing it for who knows how long, and then seeing it again, it must have just, those memories, those happy memories that you said you had, it just magnifies them by so much. I couldn't even imagine. So that's amazing.
I said in the footage, because they shot a lot of footage, but one of the things they kept was I couldn't get over how small I was. I'm now nearly 5'8". I've shrunk a bit. I'm probably more 5'7" these days, but gravity will have its way. But it was just a little thing, and you see this costume, you go, God, that was a courageous little child. Look at that. Look at that little body that went into that little costume, and there she is, having flown off to America, not knowing anything or anyone, and being put on a big set, and just feeling comfortable and at home, and treated so lovingly and perfectly. So so many memories came flooding back. It was very evocative. And then when I actually saw the show, I saw Tony Walton, who designed all these amazing costumes and was Julie Andrews' husband at the time. Watching him in the show Prop Culture, they reunited him with Julie's coat, that famous coat that she wears with the hat with the little cherries on top. And, the way he was delicately, I'm wearing a hoodie. Sorry, that's embarrassing, but delicately touching, hey, I'm on holiday, check it. Delicately touching nice fabric, and admiring his own handiwork, and just to see that it was preserved, and the scarf that she wears, and all in beautiful nick. I mean, it's extraordinary that it looks so good. very, very moving, and it's just fantastic. The archives and the girl who runs archives, Becky Klein, is a good friend of mine. In fact, I owe her a text, actually. Anyway, she is a good friend. So she's gone out of her way to find all that stuff and borrow, barter, and sometimes steal to make sure that we all get to enjoy it forever.
Absolutely, definitely. Obviously, you're still a huge fan of Disney. I mean, it shines through with everything you say. Have you ever been on a Disney cruise?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I had so much fun. Last year, it was in November. Ryan Marsh asked me, did I want to go on a cruise to, where did we go? Kind of didn't matter where we went because it was so much fun. Where was it? It's one of the B's, Bermuda. But the fun is on the boat. You know, you get to Bermuda and you go, oh yeah, an island, lovely. But the fun is all the people. We had such a laugh with the fans and, you know, all the other passengers on the boat. It was really a good time. And, you know, you do a show or two to pay for your keep on the boat. But don't tell them this, but I'd have done it for free because it was so much fun. We just had such a laugh. And, you know, I've got quite a few chums of mine who are actually performers on the cruises, on the different cruise ships. And none of them happen to be on that cruise. But, you know, but I know so much about the cruises and how fun they are. So, you know, when the world opens up again, I will definitely, if asked, do another cruise. We had a blast. And every night, you know, in the big restaurants, those sort of dining hall kind of things, you know, everybody's one. So you just all kind of hang out and talk about stuff, and you're walking around the ship and people stop and ask you questions. And it's really fun to relive all of that with people who, you know, the same as me, they're just out on a cruise having a laugh. And, you know, we had a really good time. So I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of being on a couple of Disney cruises, performing myself, but my fiance Julia has never been on a Disney cruise.
Your fiance for real?
Yeah.
I thought that was wishful thinking when I saw her.
No, I don't know how I did it, but yeah,
I don't know how you got. You were punching above your weight, weren't you? I mean,
I didn't have this sorry excuse for a beard when I met her. I had a baby face, so that's probably what it was.
Oh, okay. She likes a bit of rough and tumble. Okay.
But yeah, we're going on, since she's never been on one, we're next year in September, we're going on a couple to celebrate the honeymoon. So it's going to be amazing. It's going through Liverpool, actually, one of them. So yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
That's great. Well, just well done you, because you've got a good one. She's communicated with me, and she's just really calming and sweet and lovely. So you know, you've got yourself a good girl there.
I'm punching above my weight. I'll tell you that much.
It's so obvious.
Oh my God. Well, something we didn't mention to everyone watching is that at the end of this, which it's almost an hour, and I don't want this to end. And if we think of questions, or if you ask questions, it may just give us an excuse to stay on a little longer. But near the end of this, we're gonna do a Mary Poppins trivia, and you'll see at the bottom of the screen right now, you can win a signed portrait from Karen, and it's if you know Mary Poppins, it should be pretty easy. There's a couple difficult ones in there, but if you've been listening and if you've seen Mary Poppins, you should do pretty well. And it's timed as well, so the faster you click the answer, the more points you get. So before we go into that, we'll do that trivia in a few minutes. But before we go into that, I just want to ask you, just in general, what would you say, and this is a loaded question, what would you say is your favorite movie, Disney or not?
Out of Africa.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was quick. That was nice.
That's absolutely love that film. I watch it every year. There's three films I watch every year on my birthday. It just shows I'm a really boring person because, you know, I could go out for dinner or something, but it's like, no, let's get fish and chips in. And I want to watch Out of Africa because I just adore that. And I also watch Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Of course.
I don't know why I'm fascinated with that film. And, you know, if ever I was stuck on a desert island, he'd be my item. And then the other one is Brief Encounter, which is an old black and white movie with Cicely Johnson and Trevor Howard. And
Absolutely.
I've noticed why I like those three, but those are my favorites. So
great. That's across the board.
Yeah,
That's 3 completely different movies. I love that.
Okay.
Have you ever? What's that?
What would be your favorite film if you had to watch something tonight?
Well, since you did 3, I'll do 3.
Okay.
So my all-time favorite is Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
Love me some Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd in that movie. Their chemistry is amazing. So Back to the Future is definitely number 1. Number 2 is a movie that not many people have heard of, but it's just incredible. It's called Frequency. It has Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, and it's so hard to explain, but it's just an amazing family movie. Father and son, feel good. In short, this movie, Dennis Quaid is a firefighter who dies in a fire. He has a 6-year-old who grows up to be a cop. And his son, when he's older, finds his dad's old ham radio that he used to use when he was a firefighter. And because of the frequencies in the air, the aurora borealis, he's able to speak to his dad 30 years in the past and try to convince him not to go into the fire where he died.
Oh my God, I'm so going to watch that.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And 3 is a tie with Ghost.
Okay.
With Patrick Swayze, or Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm on this. Honestly, I saw that movie and I had the same reaction as you. I just cried my eyes out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, it was amazing. It stuck with me, definitely.
Eclectic threesome too. I love it.
Definitely.
I love choices. I haven't seen Frequency, but I'll watch that now that I'm stuck in Maine over COVID. We can all watch.
Oh yeah, it looks like you're trapped there, huh? You're not having a great time at all.
Feel quite so sorry for me with that view, but yeah.
Well, one more question before we go into this trivia,
Yep.
And it's a question we got from I think it's up here a little bit from Beth, who was part of the TAD team. Do any of your children, one, have they seen Mary Poppins, and 2, what did they think?
Well, they didn't see it for years. They saw it. We went to. They didn't see it growing up. You know, they're all in their early 20s now, and I didn't show it to them. They haven't seen any of my work. They didn't. You know, I'm just mum, because I thought that was more appropriate. You know, who cares? That was just a job, and I didn't want them sort of being fussed with their friends or whatever, or you know, any of that kind of Hollywood. SHIT. It doesn't matter. You know, it's their childhood. It's got nothing to do with what I did in my childhood. So they saw it eventually. I think it was like the 40th premiere or 40th year premiere or something. I took them to it. And it was all right. I don't know if it was particularly their cup of tea. They kept text messaging me saying, when are we going to get dinner? So I don't know if it was their favorite thing. Don't know if they were that impressed. But you know, and they asked me no questions. We went across the street from the Grauman's Chinese and went over the way to get a bite to eat. Nobody asked me anything. And I felt like a complete failure.
Oh, no.
Awful. That's my life in a nutshell. No, I'm really happy. Mission accomplished. They don't care about anything like that. They're not impressed. You know, we live in LA in an area where, you know, there's lots of people like that. They've gone to school with many celebrities and athletes. You know, if it was a sports star, I think they'd be way more impressed. Somebody going around waving a toffee apple in cute little Victorian Edwardian clothes, they're all going to, you know. Well, it's not their bag.
Well, to each their own, I guess. But if that was me, I'd be all over it.
Well,
it'd be awesome.
Can I adopt you, please, when Terry's finished with you?
Yeah, he's finished. He's been finished with me for years now. So yeah. But do you get recognized a lot, like when you're walking around?
Only if I go to Disneyland do I get recognized. In England, when I'm home in England, which I would normally be home for, like last summer, I spent 3 months in London. I would get recognized mainly for a body of work. You know, it's hard to get recognized when you're the age I am, when you're known for being a 9-year-old. But in England, I'm known for lots of other shows and films and things, so that's different. But yeah, it's kind of fun getting recognized in Disneyland because, again, I'm a certain age and people kind of put two and two together, and that's sort of cool.
That's awesome. That must be so cool to still have that massive fan base of I'm all ages. I mean, even with people my age and younger, Mary Poppins is still the movie. Like so parents. Yeah, it's fantastic. We're gonna get this trivia going here.
Yes, but again, tribute to Uncle Walt. He created all that magic that we all love.
Absolutely, yeah. We there will never be another like him. That's for sure. Hopefully there is, because we need that in the world right now. But it's going to be difficult to match Uncle Walt.
Amen.
Coriana just said, "I'm just glad that Jane Banks knows my name."
I'm glad to know your name, Coriana. It's a very pretty one.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for the TAD Talk today. This has been absolutely amazing to have Karen on with us, the amazing Jane Banks, and I know that you look back on that time fondly, and I know that you never really wanted to be an actress. Really, you wanted to be a show jumper. But I have to say that movie was casted perfectly, whoever the casting director was for that, and your inclusion in it just made it that much better. It was, and it's an absolute honor to have had you on today. Thank you so much for being a part of this with us today. I know it's been a treat for me and everyone watching.
Thank you. Well, it's certainly been a treat for me. What a fun show. I'm going to watch this all the time now. This is so fun. You are a great compere and host. You ask the best questions, and I don't know who writes them. Probably Julia's got something to do with it, and Terry. But thank you all so much, and Ross as well. You did a beautiful job. I had a great time. In fact, I don't want to leave. So I think I'll just sit here and hope that you call me next week.
Done. You can come on whenever you want. If we ever get another person, let's say we get Dick Van Dyke on at some time, who knows? Maybe we can get you on as a guest as well. We'll have a marathon going.
Excellent. Or Richard Sherman, any one of us, we're there for you because you were there for us. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the people listening and watching. We just had a great time together, and I really appreciate it. Lots of love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everyone, for watching, staying tuned for the whole thing, playing the trivia, all of the above. We're going to be back tomorrow with another amazing episode of TAD Talk. Until then, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.